us. All right. I have a incredible force of nature who's just about to join us. This woman was responsible for the most incredible change at a very large company, which we shall remain nameless. But she has gone on to create so many dynamic ideas and support others to take their dynamic ideas out to the world. She is known as the performance co-pilot, and this amazing woman, Carol Vincie, lived with undiagnosed ADHD for decades. In fact, she believed that she was lazy, crazy, and stupid, which ate away at her confidence, concentration, and focus. It wasn't until years later, and I believe we'll talk to Carol in a minute, I think she was in her 70s when she was actually self-diagnosed with ADHD, and she discovered the strengths of ADHD, and that's what actually made her responsible for so much in her corporate success. So all those things that she believed about herself actually turned into her greatest advantages. She's now on a mission to save people with similar ADHD challenges to increase their confidence, concentration, and focus so that they can accelerate the growth of their business. Let's give it up for the amazing Carol. We've got Whitney Houston for you. You're every woman. Anything you want done, baby, you go to Carol Vincie. Amazing, Carol. Welcome to International Women's Day 2022. Carol, welcome to the stage, my darling. It's good to have you back. You've been here a few times before.
I think so. Sammy, thank you so much. You're right. I lived in isolation because of all the energy that it took for me to operate during the week, that I isolated on weekends, just to re-energize myself so I could bounce back on Monday morning looking normal. And I didn't realize it. It was, it's hard to explain of how an educated person could be so ignorant of some of the basic issues that we have to deal with. And that's my mission. I want to educate people to the fact that people with ADD or ADHD have incredible magical superpowers. We have skills that can't be taught. And yet we can't do simple, trivial things. Like I joke that my house would never pass the white glove test. It just, we are challenged. And Tia mentioned it before, that the more challenging, the more engaging the activity.
Yeah.
So,
and that's certainly for you, isn't it? Because you, and I've witnessed this, in a discussion, you are 10 steps ahead. Like you're like the Da Vinci Code. You say one or two words and Carol's already created the strategy like 10 steps ahead of everybody else and just sits there quietly waiting for everyone to finish so she can tell you how it really should be done. So you see a gap that people don't. And I think that's such that's a missing piece in business, isn't it? Because we go gung-ho on all the things we want to do and all the shiny things, we like those things, but there's so many things in business that women, especially with ADHD, can skip, and they can miss those things because they're not utilizing their superpowers. Maybe they're trying to fit in too much that they forget about the things that actually make them stand out.
Well, we're socialized to conform to typical role models. We're there to be the support for our spouses, our families. We're the ones who are supposed to remember the birthdays and buy the gifts for everyone, and keep the house running. And a lot of times that's why most women don't get diagnosed until they take their children for treatment. And even today, there are many medical people in the medical field who don't believe that women have it.
Wow.
And there's a tremendous surge now because of the pandemic. And I got really aggravated last week when I read something by one of the renowned male people in the field who said, well, once the pandemic is over, it will go away.
Oh, wow.
And
Just
I'm
like
like,
that.
the way we get diagnosed or triggered is when there's a significant event in our lives. And it could be a marriage, it could be the birth of your first child, it could be a significant promotion, it can be menopause, or now the pandemic, where you had everything under control with all of the balls in the air, and then somebody puts another ball in the game, and it just blows everything apart. All of a sudden, you go from, not easy, because it looks like it's easy, but it's tremendously stressful, a well-organized life, and then one little change, and all of a sudden, everything blows up.
Wow.
And it's hard to generalize because every person, and it's one of the reasons it's hard to diagnose, but every person's case is a little different. But
Yeah.
but what I'm trying to do is educate both the people who have it, either diagnosed or undiagnosed, the people we have to live with by choice and necessity. I mean, if you fall in love with one of these crazy people, that you've got some unique challenges. And also employers to recognize that you shouldn't avoid hiring us. We're not going to conform to the normal corporate behavior, but the value that we bring to the table is so unique and puts you at such a competitive advantage that it makes sense to allow that behavior that's a little non-conforming. You
I
may not
just think
show up,
what
at nine
you're doing.
o'clock, but the work that you do will just put you so far ahead of your competitors
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it really is something that you should seek out.
Yeah, I mean, it's only when I interviewed you for the Ripple Makers podcast, when you were saying things, I was thinking, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said to Greg afterwards, you don't think that you might have because actually when you start to recognize the symptoms, I mean, it would be careless to just label everybody, but when you start recognizing the symptoms, you start to create more harmony, don't you? Because you understand why that behavior is happening, or why they might be doing something a certain way, or why like he works in complete chaos, but if I asked him where something was, he would know to the millimeter exactly where he put something, and
Yes,
he would know. But I look at it and it's like he
yes.
looks at it organized chaos. Carol, I can't believe we've run out of time already, but I mean, such an important, impressive movement you are building for people with ADHD, to business owners specifically, to use what they have, what they see as a negative, to turn that into, you call it their ADD vantage, their advantage. So
Yes.
I know you've got podcasts, you've got all kinds of things that support business owners to understand how to navigate these things in an easy way. How can people contact you, Carol?
On my Facebook page, it's Leverage Your ADD Vantages. I'll put it in the chat, but
Perfect.
you'll find my podcast there, and I have some other products and programs just to help. And also,
Yeah.
the thing that you mentioned is having patience with the person who has the symptoms so that you don't feel slighted or taken advantage of. You
Yeah.
really need to negotiate, what tasks can be done by us and what really have to be outsourced to somebody else. Maintain that family
Yeah.
harmony, which is really important.
Brilliant. Carol, thank you for doing what you do. Carol has been showing up at 2 a.m. her time for the last 15 months every single morning, even when she had a shoulder operation, she was still at Ripple Fest. You are like just an absolute legend. Give it up for the amazing Carol Vincie, tuning in all the way from New York right now. Thank you, Carol. Really appreciate you and appreciate the work that you're doing. Make sure you do go and paste that link into the chat that's live in the Facebook group right now.